outside things were bad, but inside me, something was beginning. Scary as hell at first. Gotta understand, there was no one to talk to, no experts to consult. But with time, I'm learning to control it, master it. Just hope it's not too late.
In the bustling metropolis of Empire City, Cole MacGrath was an ordinary 27-year-old college dropout working as a bike courier alongside his best friend Zeke and girlfriend Trish. However, one day, while Cole was delivering a package, he received a call from an unknown man named Kessler, who told him to open it. As Cole opened the package, it was revealed to be a strange device known as the Ray Sphere, which suddenly activated, causing a massive explosion that vaporized 6 blocks of Empire City and killed everyone in its blast radius. However, somehow, Cole survived. After succumbing to his injuries and passing out, Cole woke up several days later from a coma, where he discovered that the blast had gifted him with electrokinetic powers, allowing him to absorb, manipulate, and channel electricity. Cole quickly took a liking to his new powers, and over a short period of time would learn to control them at will. After gaining his powers, Cole would then use them to battle the newly appearing gangs across Empire City, which were not only led by other superpowered beings known as conduits, but also had dozens of other conduits operating in their ranks. Over the course of his adventures, Cole would be confronted with several situations and scenarios, forcing him to choose between using his powers to restore order and aid the citizens of the city, or to seek revenge against the world for labeling him as a terrorist and plunge the city into further chaos. Eventually, after encountering several hardships and trials, Cole would come face to face with Kessler, the mastermind behind the entire Empire City crisis. And after having a long and hard-fought battle within the crater of the Ray Sphere, Cole would emerge victorious, only to discover that Kessler was in fact Cole's future self from an alternate timeline, who had come back in time to prepare Cole to face the Beast, a monstrous conduit of ultimate power bent on the destruction of all life. Several months later, Cole would meet up with an NSA agent named Lucy Quo, who offered Cole the opportunity to travel to New Marais and enhance his powers, just in time for the Beast to immediately appear out of nowhere. After taking the Beast head-on, Cole managed to inflict massive damage upon it, but would ultimately be defeated and have his powers considerably weakened. He would then be recovered on a ship headed to New Marais, and forced to watch helplessly as the Beast destroyed Empire City. Afterwards, Cole manages to reach New Marais, where after battling a fascistic anti-superhuman militia, an army of swamp mutants and superpowered mercenaries, and finding new allies and fellow conduits Quo and Nyx, Cole manages to not only restore, but also increase his powers. In the end, the Beast turns out to be John White, an ally of Cole's from Infamous 1 who was thought dead, and is actually using his powers to activate all conduits, as only they can survive a deadly plague caused by radiation from the Ray Sphere that kills non-conduits, and is currently sweeping the globe. Cole must then choose whether to sacrifice 90% of all conduits, including himself, to save humanity, or become the Beast himself and activate the conduits at the cost of humanity, to face the destiny presented before him, or reject it and forge his own path. Welcome to the first of a series of power scaling videos where I'll be analyzing the feats, powers, and abilities of the protagonists of the Infamous series, starting, of course, with Cole MacGrath. This video will mainly be broken up into 2 segments, the first of which I will be going over Cole's powers and abilities, both good and evil karma, as well as his combat skill and overall intelligence, and the second segment, where I'll be going over Cole's feats of attack potency, durability, strength, both lifting and striking, and speed, as well as the feats of other characters that he should logically scale to, and determine where he should stand in each of those categories tier-wise. So, with introductions out of the way, let's get right into it. Even before gaining his powers, Cole MacGrath was an expert acrobat, as well as a seasoned free climber, being able to effortlessly leap across rooftops even as a normal human. Having spent 4 years prior to the events of the first game training in parkour, to the extent where he knew the entire city, even its sewer system, like the back of his hand, he can perfectly balance himself on thin poles and wires without losing equilibrium, even while he's being attacked or the ground is giving way underneath him. He's able to easily navigate through collapsing structures, even while suffering from severe injuries and on the verge of passing out. He's also able to leap extremely high and long distances, such as jumping back to shore from a sinking aircraft carrier, and seemingly being able to reach helicopters in mid-air. Cole is also able to seamlessly blend his acrobatic prowess with his combat skills, both in hand-to-hand techniques, as well as maneuvering around the battlefield, evading attacks, and outflanking enemies. The most notable example of which would be his melee finishers, where he's able to easily overwhelm and ragdoll his opponents with style and finesse. For close quarters combat, he also possesses the Amp, a giant 3-foot-long cattle prod-like weapon capable of unleashing thousands of volts with every strike. The weapon itself is strong enough to defeat some of the strongest fodder conduits in Infamous 2, such as the Ice Crusher and the Ravager, and is even capable of prying armor off of Ice Titans, which is completely unscathed by direct hits from RPG missiles that can destroy M1 Abrams tanks in one shot. Cole is an extremely adaptable combatant, being able to easily exploit the slightest weaknesses. He can logically deduce the outcomes of his actions, and has shown quick and intuitive thinking under pressure. He is extremely adept at using the environment to his advantage, such as using a helicopter's fuel tank to blow off a golem conduit's arm, or set David Warner on fire, as well as using the flooded districts of New Marais to easily dispatch small armies of Vermach 88. He can easily turn his enemies' attacks against themselves, such as deflecting the projectiles of Alden Tate and the Dustmen, or prematurely detonating Kessler and the First Son's mines and grenades. He can quickly and seamlessly combine his own powers in a variety of ways to creatively take down and surprise his opponents. He also has a crap ton of experience fighting off entire armies single-handedly, including the US military, as well as several factions that, likewise, can easily decimate all of the world's militaries, as well as possess years of training, combat experience in war zones, and utilize technology over 100 years more advanced than the contemporary world. And he's able to do this even while deprived of both food and sleep for over a week, a testament to both his combat skill and stamina. He's defeated several conduits with years more experience in the use of their powers, even ones who have possessed and been trained in their powers since birth, and has even defeated Kessler, his own future self with over 50 years worth of knowledge and experience in the use of his powers and dealing with various different types of conduits in an all-out fight, and should possess his experience himself after receiving his implanted memories at the end of Infamous 1. Cole's powers mainly revolve around the use of electrokinesis and electromagnetism, which allows him to control all forms of electricity and lightning in and out of his body, as well as manipulate any form of electronic current. Cole's most common application of his power is the ability to fire lightning bolts from his hand. He's also able to fire off variations of these lightning bolts, such as a long-range artillery bolt, a pincer bolt that strikes the target from 3 sides simultaneously, a swath of 5 overcharged bolts, and a constant stream of electricity. He can also charge his bolts to unleash an overload burst or release a constant stream of arc lightning. Cole can release electromagnetic blasts and shock waves, which can redirect projectiles, electrocute enemies and objects, throw vehicles through the air, nullify gravity via reverse magnetism, as well as unleash a ball of caged kinetic energy, which Cole can either remotely detonate or harness its kinetic energy to increase his speed and jumping ability. Cole is also able to form orbs of electricity and kinetic energy, which he can fire off as explosive rockets and grenades, each of which having a plethora of variations, such as homing, cluster, and reverse magnetism effects. He can also create physical constructs and weapons out of electricity, such as the Gigawatt Blade, a blade of pure electric energy ionized around Cole's arm, which allows him to slice away at his opponents with 1 billion volts of electricity. It's powerful enough to easily slice off David Warner's arm, who is completely unharmed by a building-busting explosion. He can also create lassos out of electricity, which allows him to pull enemies towards himself, or himself to other locations. With induction grind, Cole can grind along power lines and metal railings, which allow him to travel faster and smoother, and with his static thrusters, he can achieve long-distance gliding and temporary flight. Cole can manifest shields of electromagnetic and later cryokinetic energy from his hands, which allow him to block projectiles, as well as reduce or even prevent damage caused by explosions, as well as absorb this damage and convert it into energy to fuel his powers. He possesses telekinesis in the form of electromagnetism, allowing him to telekinetically manipulate objects and enemies alike, as well as tap into the electromagnetic field of the Earth itself to trap enemies in inescapable electric shackles.
One of Cole's most versatile powers is the ability to sense and manipulate the bioelectricity in other human beings.
His radar pulse ability allows him to sense any form of electricity, and allows him to pinpoint the locations of electric phenomena such as enemies, blast shards, dead drops, and energy sources. It also allows him to sense hostile intent in others, allowing him to discern when someone is about to attack him, as well as see through disguises, invisibility, and shape-shifting. His ability to sense enemies' bioelectricity and discern the locations even without seeing them essentially prevents him from being able to be snuck up on. And when fully upgraded, the radar pulse is able to sense objects that are clean across the city, giving him an enormous range.
He can also heal others through the use of electricity by hyperstimulating their cells into a rapid state of regeneration. Not only does this heal wounds, but it also cures poison and Sasha's tar.
Through a simple touch to the skull, Cole can also leech the bioelectricity from a human being, instantly turning their body off and killing them, as well as restoring his health and energy. This ability essentially negates durability as well. On the topic of other durability negating hacks, Cole is also able to destabilize the bioelectricity in a person's body and cause it to explode from the inside out with a simple headshot.
And through once again only slight physical contact, Cole is also able to turn a person's bioelectricity against them by essentially having it tear their bodies apart from the inside out.
During his adventures in New Marais, Cole also stumbles across a power transfer device, which would allow him to use a blast core to swap powers with one of his allies, Lucy Quo or Nyx, which would allow him to obtain cryokinesis or napalm manipulation respectively. Both of these abilities would essentially grant him pyro or cryokinetic versions of his existing powers, such as his rockets, grenades, and blasts, as well as a few other powers, such as the ability to create ice pillars and platforms to give himself a jump boost, the ability to create ice barriers to attack opponents and provide cover, the ability to surround himself in flames and propel himself forward like a rocket, creating an explosion at the end of his arc, as well as being able to attain a form of temporary flight through consecutive use, being able to charge up pyrokinetic energy into his fist and unleash a devastating explosive punch, trapping enemies in giant napalm tendrils that he can set fire to and cause them to explode, and the ability to summon and control an army of corrupted in battle. The energy needed to use these powers can be restored from any source of electricity. And at the end of inFAMOUS 2, Cole learns how to absorb natural lightning that he himself can call down, essentially providing him a limitless source of power from the weather itself, as well as empower his ionic abilities, such as unleashing a massive wall of ice that freezes all enemies solid in his area of effect, unleashing a tornado that tears through the world and rips up anything in its path, extending the reach of his bio-leech to anyone in his immediate area without the need for physical contact, as well as summon a thunderstorm to call down a massive bolt of lightning to deal massive damage to the nearest target, or to tear up the world by controlling it manually. In the evil ending of inFAMOUS 2, Cole makes the choice to side with the Beast and aid it in its mission of saving conduits from the plague. Having grown tired of the endless killing, the Beast offers to transfer his powers to Cole to carry on their mission, which he accepts, and in doing so, becomes the most powerful conduit of all time, gaining an array of versatile powers such as the ability to regenerate on the atomic level, ESP, telepathy, teleportation, the ability to shapeshift into a giant 100-foot-tall magma creature, enhanced pyrokinesis, and total gravity manipulation, which he can use as a form of telekinesis, as well as be able to create black hole-like singularities, which can manipulate matter on the atomic level. At the beginning of inFAMOUS 1, Cole comes right out the gate with an impressive durability feat of surviving the ray sphere explosion. Albeit he's badly injured and covered in third-degree burns and lacerations, but he is none the worse for wear, and is able to parkour his way through a collapsing garage before finally passing out. Using in-game measurements and a minimum of violent fragmentation, given conflicting descriptions of the explosion, this gives us an energy output of 22 kilotons, or town level. In addition to durability, this feat also scales directly to his attack potency, as near the end of inFAMOUS 1's good ending, he was able to destroy the ray sphere in one shot, which was previously completely undamaged by its own explosion, in addition to being placed inside a protective container at the time, making this feat even more impressive. To further support this level of power, Cole then goes on to sink the USS Washington aircraft carrier, as well as kill David Warner, who not only feeds on electricity to survive, but is essentially 30 conduits wrapped in one shot.
Using the electrical work relationship, the giant pillar of lightning Cole summons to do this has been calculated to have an energy output of 4.7 megatons, which is a small city-level feat. Cole has also been able to harness energy from a naturally occurring thunderstorm, with natural thunderstorms having a typical energy output of 239 kilotons of energy, nearly 16 times that of the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. More impressively, Cole can summon thunderstorms himself with his ionic and lightning storm attacks, with storm clouds covering the horizon in a literal fraction of a second, the kinetic energy of which being calculated to around 251 gigatons of TNT, or large island level.
He's been able to fight and severely damage the beast several times, even blasting his body apart on multiple occasions, whose body was completely unscathed by a direct hit from a nuclear missile, despite being caught off guard. In fact, the most the missile seems to do is bring him to his knees, before proceeding to teleport into the city only minutes later.
To further support this, the beast is also capable of easily obliterating entire cities in one shot, a feat calculated to be 1.4 gigatons of TNT, as well as create an explosion encompassing Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, which has also been calculated to be 345 gigatons, another large island-level feat. Despite not being showcased as often as his attack potency or durability, Cole does have some impressive feats of strength, such as when he staggered and drew blood from David Warner with a single punch, who again was completely unscathed by a building-busting explosion. He can strike the ground hard enough to create massive craters with his thunder drop, and at the climax of their fight, he was able to physically overpower Kessler and send him flying through the air with a single blow, who's strong enough to create earthquakes between magnitudes 6 and 8 with a single punch, the energy required to do so ranging from 15 kilotons to 15 megatons. He's also been able to physically overpower the bite of a devourer, who's been calculated to have a body weight of 375 tons and a subsequent bite force of 47 tons per square inch.
He's able to use his physical strength to effortlessly pull vehicles through the air, such as 7-ton ambulances or 40-ton semi-trucks.
And with his electromagnetism, he was able to derail an entire train with enough force to send it flying into a building, which, depending on if it was a single car or the entire train, could be anywhere between 42 tons or 468 tons. His strength should also scale directly to the beast after inheriting his powers, who should be well within the 1,000-ton range, seeing as how he could support his own body weight, as well as casually throw a giant metal statue across several city blocks with one hand. In terms of speed, Cole has several feats that put him at casually supersonic, such as casually redirecting an RPG within inches of its target, which has been calculated to be around Mach 1.5, supported by feats both in games and comics of him casually reacting to and dodging automatic gunfire, as well as effortlessly shooting down a fleet of supersonic fighter jets as if they were nothing. He was also able to use his induction grind to outrun David Warner, who was shown in the same panel to be fast enough to run on water. During his fight with Kessler, he is also able to casually dodge his lightning from close range, even while running towards him, with the step leaders of lightning having a speed of 220,000 miles per hour, or approximately Mach 287. He can also dodge point-blank grenade explosions after they've detonated, with the typical grenade having a detonation velocity of nearly 8,000 meters a second and an effective range of 15 meters. This puts Cole's speed at around Mach 190. Finally, he's able to dodge beams from the RFI, which were shown in the good ending to be able to travel to low Earth orbit within 8 seconds, as evidenced by the fact that it knocks out a distant satellite, 63% of which operate in low Earth orbit. Assuming 2,000 kilometers as the distance traveled, divided by our time frame of 8 seconds, clocks the speed of the beams, and thus Cole, at Mach 728. Once again, high-end, massively hypersonic. In conclusion, Cole MacGrath is an extremely powerful character, who I often find to be highly lowballed or downplayed in a majority of versus matches, and I hope this video has done a good job of showcasing just how strong he is.